Amen. Praise God. Well, I'm excited to share this word. I'm excited for this day. I'm excited that a place called home is with us. My brother, Pastor Eugene, and others from his church, and they're going to be with us at the picnic. So it's a good day. But I'm hoping you guys are willing to be honest today. Is that all right? Yeah. Can I challenge you a little bit? You know, that's kind of always how we come, but I'm just making sure you're still ready for it today. Because I think there's a reality that we all got issues. I know that's not perfectly grammatically correct, but y'all know what I'm saying. The truth is we got issues. I mean, at least I know I do. Maybe at least 3 or 4 of you could honestly say, I got issues. And they may be big, small, medium. I don't know what they are, but there's things that we struggle with. There's things that we wish were a little different, or man, I wish I didn't respond that way, or I wish I didn't feel that way. I wish I didn't struggle with that burden, that sin, that pain. I've got this hurt. Maybe it's physically, maybe it's emotionally, maybe it's relationally, maybe it's financially, maybe it's spiritually. But if we're honest, can some of us say, I got issues? That's the title today. So now's your chance. If you don't have issues, then go ahead and go to Bowen Park right now and just get things prepared for us. But if you got at least one issue, can you just give me maybe like 15, 20 minutes or maybe longer? We'll see how the Lord leads to try to understand how does God want us to deal with those issues? Because we all got them, I think. But what do we do with them as it relates to our relationship with Jesus? What do we do with our issues? Well, there's a story in the Bible. There's a truth that Jesus lived out here on earth that shows us how to handle issues. So if you've got your Bibles or your phones or some version of it, it'll be on the screen as well. You see it already. We're going to go to Luke 8. And actually, if you go to the beginning, that's where we're going to end up. If you go to the first slide, I think somehow maybe they got off order. We're going to start in verse 40, Luke chapter 8. I'm going to give you a second to find it, Luke 8:40. I want us all to be able to follow along. It's okay. There you go, right there. Yep, there we go. It's okay. I'm going to ask my wife to read. We're going to start with verse 40 and verse 41. Luke chapter 8.
Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And there came a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue, and falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house.
So here's the situation, okay? This is the context. We see Jesus is coming back, and there's these crowds that start to gather around him. He had been across the sea. He had been healing. He had been delivering people and casting out demons. And he was doing this work, and he came back, and people were hearing about it. And so they started to gather around him. Let's read verse 42.
For he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. As Jesus went, the people pressed around him.
So Jesus is going around, and the people are pressing around him. I don't know how Jesus felt about it, but everywhere he went, he somehow attracted a crowd. I guess that's what happens when you work miracles and you set people free, that people want to be around you. They want to be close. They want to press in. They want to see what's going to happen. They don't want to miss it. So that's what's happening here in this moment. This man is asking for Jesus to heal his 12-year-old daughter. But in the middle of this sort of chaos and this crowd forming, let's go to the next verse, because there's a woman that enters the story. Verse 43.
And there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone.
So there was a woman who had an issue. If you know the King James Version, some of us grew up with that. It said the woman with the issue of blood. Now, bear with me. Please use your imagination. I know, hopefully I don't look like a woman, but if I'm the woman, I've got an issue of blood. This was a bleeding that, as you know, as women, it's supposed to come for a little bit of time, but if it keeps going and it doesn't stop, it becomes an issue. It's not how it's supposed to work. It should go away, but it had continued for 12 years. Imagine what it must feel like just physically. I mean, I don't even really like when I get a cut, but to just be bleeding, some of the women look like they're understanding better than the men. There's an issue that keeps happening for 12 consecutive long years. She couldn't stop it. But see, here's the problem. It's an issue physically. But it was more than that, because in that context, in their religious beliefs and based on the Levitical law, if a woman bled past 3 days and it continued, she became unclean. Not just physically, but in the context of the religion and the belief, so that she would not be allowed in the temple. So now she not only had a physical issue, she had a religious or a spiritual issue, because she couldn't go worship with the people of God. She couldn't go into the place where they would connect with God. So now she was an outcast in that way. And not just that, but relationally she had an issue, because she couldn't go around people, because she had that issue. If she touched somebody, it's like she would pass her issue to them and they would become unclean. So she had an issue that turned into another issue and made another issue. Sounds like some of our lives, if we're honest. So now she's got a spiritual issue, religious issue, physical issue, emotional issue, relational issue. And then she's like most of us, she tried to find some help. That's the first word. I'm going to do a few of these throughout. She was looking for help. Yeah. Makes sense that she would look for help. I think most of us would, what can I do to change this condition? I want to go get some help. So she spent her money going to doctor after doctor, to another doctor, and none of them could help her condition. She was still bleeding. They couldn't figure it out. And now she's broke. She got another issue. She spent all her money, so now add a financial issue on top of the emotional, physical, relational, social, spiritual, religious issues. She's got issues. And she needed help. But at least she recognized that she needed help. Some of us, our first issue is we ain't honest and we're not admitting that we need help with our issues. Well, I'm going to overcome my struggle with lust, or I'm going to become, less prideful, and I'm going to stop lying and cheating, or I'm going to be able to, make that extra money somehow. I know I really shouldn't probably try to find it in the lottery, but I'm going to find a way somehow. From which cometh my help. Well, it's not coming from that doctor. It's not coming from the doctor of entertainment. It's not coming from the doctor of promotion and status. It's not coming from the doctor of a bigger bank account. It's not coming from a doctor of another relationship and another love in your life. That's not the place that you are going to get the help that you need. But we do that. We're looking for help in all the wrong places sometimes. Because even if we get to the point of honesty that's saying I got issues, we would rather find a solution to our issues in the ways that cost us less. That cause us to be less humble. And see, that's the difference in this woman. The second word is humility. Even though she was unclean and she had to be ashamed, she had to be feeling guilty. She knew she couldn't be around people. She didn't want to make anyone else unclean. I'm sure she probably thought, Jesus don't want nothing to do with me. I got too many issues. I've messed up too much. This thing's been going on too long. And everyone around me, no one can solve it. These supposed experts haven't been able to help me get better. She needed help, but she had to be humble to choose to go towards Jesus. But there's a crowd. Can I really get there? Can I get my way to Jesus? Is that even possible for me? Let's read the next verse and let me show you how she responds.
She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. and immediately her discharge of blood ceased.
I don't know if it happened exactly like this, but I know she had to come up in a way that she didn't want anybody to see her. She had to be humble enough to say, I'm so desperate. I've tried every other thing that I'm willing to get down on the ground and crawl to Jesus if it's the last thing that I do. Because I need to touch him. She didn't even want him to see her or to speak to her or to lay his hands upon her. She just wanted to touch him.
Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead.
So she sneaks in through the crowd. And with every little bit of faith that she had and letting go of every fear, every doubt, every bit of worry and anxiety and shame and guilt that she carried, she put it all aside in her moment of desperation. And she reached out and touched the hem of his garment. And in that moment, the bleeding stopped. It says she was completely healed. Now, I think normally we would want to run and jump and shout, but I don't think she did that because we're going to see in a moment, she was still unsure. She didn't really know what to do. Something had just happened. She's probably checking herself and realizing that she wasn't bleeding anymore. But she's still unsure. Let's read the next two verses, actually.
And Jesus said, "Who was that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surround you and are pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone out from me."
Notice Jesus' reaction. Somebody touched me. Now, it could have been, well, it's not appropriate for somebody to touch me. Or it could have been, was that woman unclean? Because if she would have touched somebody else, they would have thought, oh, she touched me, now I'm unclean. But here's the next word, him. She went to him with a capital H. Because Jesus was different than everybody else. She would have touched anybody else, she would have made them unclean, and she would have still been bleeding. But she found her way to him. And the difference of Jesus than running to anybody else and trying to find it in any other thing is that he has power. So when the Holy One, when the righteous one, when the perfect one, who's without sin, when he gets touched by someone unclean, he doesn't become unclean, but instead he transfers his power, he transfers his holiness, his righteousness, his cleanliness, and it just flows out of him. The capital H, him. So the point in this moment is that you've just got to get to him. Not her, not him with a little h or with some other name that offers some other kind of power or influence or wants to give you something that might satisfy for a moment, but it's not the cleansing power that Jesus alone offers if you come to him in faith and touch him. It's him. Now go ahead and read the next verse.
And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed.
See, look, she's still afraid. She still feels ashamed. Even though the physical healing had happened, Jesus wasn't done because she's still carrying all of that. She still doesn't feel worthy. Anybody been there? You even when Jesus may have answered your prayer and something happened, but the bleeding on the outside may have stopped, but there's still some bleeding in your heart. that's still there because you still don't feel good enough or worthy, or I don't know if next time if the bleeding's going to come back, or is this just a temporary healing, and am I going to be able to sustain this level of faith? You still have all those doubts and you're worried, so you're just like that woman sitting before Jesus. You're still kind of afraid and you're trembling because you've heard about him, but you're not sure, is he really as gracious as they say? Is he really as merciful as they say? Will he actually forgive all of my stuff? Can I really be healed where it really matters most? We have those questions, just like the woman, because we make our issues bigger than Jesus. So she was able to somehow be honest enough to tell him, Jesus, I've got a lot of issues. And I've tried all these doctors. I've spent all my money. I've done everything I knew to do. And my only option was to come to you. And I just thought that if I could somehow just touch you. And that's why I did what I did. Please don't hold it against me. And let's read verse 48 and see how Jesus responds.
And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace."
Notice how Jesus responds. This is the last word. It's healing. The real deal, the full healing. Because when he says your faith has made you well, that wellness is you've been delivered. You've been rescued. She was down low on the ground. He said, no, stand up. I've rescued you. You've been made free. You've been delivered. Whatever your issue is, whatever you came to me with, however you felt about yourself, he said, I've rescued you from that. I've delivered you from that. I've given you peace. And if you know this word, this is not just like the peace that we talk about. It's not even just the, Hakuna Matata kind of peace. No, this is a wholeness. This is every part that was broken and beaten and wounded and bleeding has now been made whole. No lack. Nothing else you need. You've been made complete. You've been made whole. Every part is back in line where it should be. All of your body is functioning, but more importantly, your spirit man has been made whole. You're well. You're good. You've got all you need. See, he changed her condition. She had an issue of blood. But he changed her to someone who was whole, who was made well. And one more thing that's almost subtly sort of enters into his response. What's the first word he said to her? Daughter. This was a woman. It was just some woman with an issue. And then she came humbly because she needed help, and she applied her faith, and then she became somebody. Touch me. So the woman who was just somebody is now standing before the King of Kings, and he says, daughter. He didn't just change her condition, he changed her position. He gave her the fullness and the wholeness of her identity. Because see, when you're a daughter, when you're a son, you've got access to everything the king has. You get his inheritance. You get all his goodness. You get all the cattle on 1,000 hills. You get all of his peace, all his joy, all his wisdom, all his strength. You got it all now. You don't have to hold back. You don't have to worry about what these people are going to say. You don't have to worry about touching people. You don't have to worry about worshiping with people. You don't have to worry about being not worthy of being in my presence. You're a daughter. You're a son. You're a child of God. You're family. That's the greatest healing we can get. That's the greatest gift that we can have. It's to be made whole where we've been given purpose and identity as a child of God. You guys can have your seat. Thank you for helping me. Amen. The story, it seems so simple. In some ways, it was just a woman who worked her way through a crowd and touched the garment of Jesus. But as we know, it's not that simple to deal with our issues. Maybe we get stuck in that first phase and not really being honest and wanting the Lord's help. I've been there. You struggle with things for years, and you might say it to your friend, because that's the Christian answer. I hope God will, take this from me, and I don't want to be this way. But the honest answer is, I kind of got comfortable that way. I don't necessarily want to have to sacrifice to overcome that struggle, or I don't want to have to go ask for forgiveness for that person. We can say we want it, but do we really want the Lord's help with our issue? And then are we willing to come humbly? Are we desperate? Or are we hoping God answers a 30-second prayer? It'd be nice, Lord, you just give me that microwave oven answer. I put it in and it comes out, and I don't have that anymore. I've got no issue. Maybe he'll do that, but I think most of the time he's looking to see, are we desperate? Are we willing to put our faith into action? Are we going to keep seeking him? Look, I'm not guaranteeing you this morning that one prayer or one moment is going to change your situation. But what I am telling you this word shows us is that if we come in faith, something's going to happen. It may not be instantaneous miracle, or it may be, or it just may be he changes your appetite or your desire or your thought life. But do you want it? Are we desperate for it? Are we humble enough that we're willing to just to eat the ground and pray on our knees and fast and keep seeking God for as long as it takes? Do we want it? Or are we just good with the t-shirt that says, I got issues? And we just going to keep it on? Maybe we'll put a nice suit coat over it to cover it up and make ourselves look good when we come on a Sunday morning. But if we opened up here and we're honest, the truth would say, I got issues. Today, the opportunity is there. The invitation is there. Will we come to him? The one who has the power to heal, to deliver, to change. Yes, he can do it if he just decides to, and he can snap his fingers or give a word, and he can heal you, change you, transform you. But maybe he's wanting you to respond in faith today. To come showing your dependency upon him, your desire to trust him. So that he can show up with the true healing. That doesn't just change a condition, but it changes who you are. Changes your attitudes, your desires, the struggles. It gives you the power to overcome addiction. It gives you the power to forgive. It gives you the power to let go and surrender and trust God. I don't really know any other way else to say it, but what do you want to do with your issues today? I'm going to be quiet in a moment. I felt like God just wanted us to respond. And I don't want to convince you. I just want the Holy Spirit to touch you, because all I want to do now is give you a chance to come to him and let someone pray with you. And so if I could just get a few of our ministers and Pastor Eugene, if you're comfortable, you can come up too, brother. And I just want us to be able to pray. I don't even want it to be I don't even want to put much structure around it, except I'm just asking, do you, just like that woman responded, do you have something you need to take to Jesus today? And do you want to leave that issue with him and let him heal you where you need to be healed? Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how long you've struggled with it or what you're in the middle of. If it's a trust issue, a sin issue, a relationship issue, a financial issue, whatever your issue is, that's you and God. But as a response of saying, God, I need help. I want to come humbly, and I know I need you. We're opening the altar in this moment, and we just want to pray with you. We just want to pray with you. You can decide if you want to tell that person what it is, or if you just say, just pray for me. It's up to you. We're not trying to disclose all your information, but I think some of us got issues and we need them today. So we're going to take a few minutes and just pray up here. If you're still in your seat, you can just pray where you are for yourself, or you can intercede and pray for others that have come forward.